And so, my fellow Americans, ask not what your country can do for you, ask what you can do for your country.
Welcome to the Politics, Prepping, and Paranormal Podcast.
Flippity-jibbity nonsense.
I thought it was terrific.
Not just big, it's yeah.
Let's go.
Welcome, and thanks for listening to the Politics, Prepping, and Paranormal Podcast. My name is Jeff Morey, and I'm your host. You know I aim to please, and I'm always looking for new, fresh, and exciting content to provide to you, my listeners. I try to bounce around from the core themes of the show, that being, of course, politics, prepping, the paranormal, conspiracy theories, and social and economic trends, as well as a weekly news analysis of things that I think are most relevant and what you would want to hear about the most. So I try not to dwell too long on one particular subject. That way, hopefully, every week is something new and a different subject to talk about, or a cool people that I interview. So it's been a few weeks since I've done a prepping show, and if you've listened to me long enough, you know it's one of my passions. I think it is extremely important that we all be prepared for whatever this insane world throws at us next. And for those of us that are parents, especially be prepared to take care of our kids and families in the event of a major or minor disaster. Being prepared means not just having on hand the tools and supplies you need, but also knowing what they are and how to use them, as well as always having situational awareness and watching and paying attention to what goes on in our world and all around us every day. So this week, it's back to a prepping show and hopefully giving you some good insight and advice on how to get your home prepared for disasters. But before we dive into that, let's talk about some of this week's big news stories. Starting the news off this week with some somber news, Hollywood legend and Academy Award winner Gene Hackman, his wife Betsy, and their dog were found dead in their New Mexico home on Wednesday. According to local police, they apparently had been dead for quite a while, and their bodies were found in separate rooms. Preliminary findings from medical examiners say there were no apparent signs of external trauma, and there were no signs of forced entry into the home. 2 maintenance workers at the subdivision where they live reportedly saw the front door of the home ajar, and a man who identified himself as the caretaker of the subdivision made the initial call to 911. 2 other dogs were found alive on the property, and the local fire department tested for carbon monoxide, but could not locate any signs of a leak or possible poisoning. Unfortunately, Hackman and his wife wasn't the only tragic passing this week. TV star Michelle Trachtenberg, known for her roles in Buffy the Vampire Slayer and Gossip Girl, was found dead on Wednesday as well in her New York City apartment. Trachtenberg, who was only 39, recently underwent a liver transplant and could have been experiencing complications from that surgery. Trachtenberg's family has denied a request for an autopsy since her death has been ruled as not suspicious and has requested privacy during this time of loss. Our thoughts and prayers go out to all the family of both the Hackmans and Michelle Trachtenberg. In some positive news, India's first 3 clinics for the transgender community have closed following a stop work order from the U.S. Agency for International Development, or USAID, that had funded them. President Trump has repeatedly criticized the USAID and their spending, funding, and other ridiculous things such as voter turnout in India. I'm not making this up, people. This is where your hard-earned tax dollars have been going. And we wonder why our country has such a ridiculously high deficit. Thank the Lord for Doge right now and absolutely absurd spending like this finally getting axed. Speaking of our commander-in-chief, did anyone see the videos of Trump basically making Zelensky his little, well, I won't say that word on my show. Yes, the puppet politician showed up at the White House on Friday to speak with President Trump about the impending rare earth minerals deal and discuss their war with Russia, among other things, and he was immediately met with scrutiny for not wearing a traditional and respectful suit and tie. And Trump commented, "I'm glad to see you dressed up," as he arrived at the White House exiting his motorcade. The meeting turned very heated with Trump, Vance, and Zelensky repeatedly trading jabs, and at one point, Zelensky telling Trump and Vance concerning the Russia-Ukraine war, quote, "You have nice ocean and don't feel it now, but you will feel it in the future." Unconfirmed reports and videos have surfaced of Zelensky supposedly getting caught on a hot mic calling JD Vance a, well, I won't say that word either. Either way, Zelensky left Washington without a deal. I know this is going to completely gaslight the anti-Trump left, but personally, I think it's awesome that Trump and Vance didn't let Zelensky come into our country, disrespect our leaders, and tell us what we need to do. Anyone that knows me knows I am 100% America first, always. Okay, last story for this week. At the Vatican, Pope Francis' condition has apparently worsened, with media outlets reporting that he suffered a bronchospasm, which resulted in an episode of vomiting with inhalation and sudden worsening of the respiratory picture. Pope Francis has been hospitalized since February 14th after being admitted for bronchitis. On Friday, Vice President Vance, a convert to Catholicism, said Friday that every day, me and my children have said a prayer for the Holy Father. Our thoughts and prayers go out to the Pope for a speedy recovery. Oh, okay, so that's what's happening around the country and around the world this week. It's time to talk about how to prepare our homes for disasters. And when I say disasters, I don't just mean natural disasters. No, I literally mean any and all scenarios that would potentially cause property damage to your home and belongings, and more importantly, cause harm to you and your family. That could range from any kind of different scenarios, from pandemics where you're locked down in your home to natural disasters such as hurricanes, tornadoes, and earthquakes, to violent attackers attempting to break into your home, to an EMP attack on our power grid that causes your home to lose power and access to public utilities, to a nuclear attack. I could go on and on. A good prepper always thinks of all the different scenarios and anything that could happen. Did any of you ever watch Doomsday Preppers? Yeah, I know I'm probably showing my age right now since that show aired from 2011 to 2014, over 10 years ago. I've said before in previous prepping themed shows, I think it's foolish to prepare for a specific disaster like what the preppers featured in that show supposedly mostly did. Now, we all know that was a TV show, and probably a great deal of what they showed, if not all of it, was dramatized for TV. So, no disrespect to any of the preppers on that show. Many of them may have been good, diverse preppers that actually did a good job thinking and planning for multiple different scenarios. But to just prepare for a pandemic or rioting due to a collapse in the financial system or such extremely specific scenarios is foolish. While we can probably never fully prepare for every scenario, at least having that thought process and mindset will hopefully at least give you an edge and the best chance for survival. So let's start with the things we need to think about when preparing our homes for disaster. So for this episode, I, and some, not all obviously, of these scenarios, let's pretend that there's a 50-foot high, impenetrable steel fence around our home and we can't leave for 30 days. In this episode, I'm going to go one step further than what most of your prepper podcasts or TV shows do, and not only tell you what you need to do and get to prepare, I'm also going to tell you about how much money each item is going to cost you. Now, when I say that, I live in the great state of Tennessee. The costs I'm going to give you are just a guideline and an estimate of what it might cost you. Obviously, common sense here. There is no possible way I could even come close to giving you an exact dollar amount. Different contractors charge different prices. One product may cost 30 to 50% more or less at one retailer than another, that sort of thing. So the estimates I give you are based on prices in my home state of Tennessee and roundabout current cost of goods and services. Just for a baseline here, I'm going to base my cost estimates off a single family home that's around 2,000 square feet, 3 bedrooms and 2 baths, and a family of 4. I feel like that's a pretty good median average to go by for most average families in 2025. And apart from food, most of these won't vary too much terribly that much either way. So let's get started. First, let's talk about the most basic human instinct, survival. And the two most critical things to our survival, food and water. Most experts recommend you have 30 days of food and water on hand in the event you have to lock down or are otherwise trapped in your home. Most preppers like to stock up on pre-packed food supplies from manufacturers such as My Patriot Supply, Augustin Farms, or ReadyWise. These are always great options as they're always packaged in durable, airtight plastic containers or buckets and will provide you with the necessary rations of food and usually nutrition needed for the allotted time period, most of the time 30 days. They usually also have an extremely long shelf life, around 25 years or so. I have a bunch of these, and I don't think you can go wrong stocking up on them. Be sure to diversify when you do get them, but don't just buy entrees or a specific type. Get veggie supplies, entrees, fruits, powdered milk, etc. But don't stop there. Be sure to keep plenty of canned goods, rice, and non-perishable items that store well and for relatively long periods of time. If you have infants, be sure to think about them as well and stock up on powdered formula and canned baby food. A lot of preppers love to get into canning and vacuum sealing some stored foods, and there are lots of books and resources to help you learn some of these skills. Whenever you buy, can, or package something for storage, always be sure to keep a couple of Sharpies on hand to label the date which you bought or placed the item in storage. That way you can rotate and keep your stored foods as fresh as possible. Also, be sure to keep lots of gallons of water, water purification tablets, and try to set up a rainwater collection tank outside of your home. If you know ahead of time of impending disaster situations such as a hurricane, or as long as you still have it, be sure to fill up all your bathtubs with water as well. Without going into depth on this episode about it, again, there are lots of resources and YouTube videos to help you learn how to build and set up a rainwater collection tank. And don't forget about your pets and other animals you may have too. Since pets vary so much from one household to another, I'm going to skip a cost estimate on the pets for this example. But for, say, 4 30-day food supplies, one for each person, some canned goods, your water supply, rainwater collection system, and purification tablets, you're probably looking at around $600 to $800 or so. Moving on from your food and water and most basic survival needs, next let's think about health and sanitation. Toothpaste, toilet paper, soap and shampoo, contact supplies if you wear them, and health needs such as any medications or prescriptions. The best practice here is to make a chart of your daily routine and write down every day for a month what you use and how much of it. Then you can figure out how much you'll need to store for a given length of time. Assuming a mostly healthy family of 4, you'll probably need 4 tubes of toothpaste, one of the large packs of toilet paper from Costco, Sam's, or a bulk club retailer, a bar of soap for each person, bottle of shampoo for each person, better that way for sanitation too, contact solution, and a survival OTC medicine kit, which can be purchased on Amazon and includes all the essentials such as ibuprofen, antacid, electrolytes, nasal decongestant, etc. And think of how you will bathe if you don't have running water or power. In this case, you'll want to invest either a solar shower if it isn't too cold outside, or a portable camping shower. Keep in mind the extra water this will require, and you will 100% for certain have to dramatically cut back on how much you shower, maybe even as little as 1 shower per week per person if circumstances require it. So again, for a relatively healthy family of 4, you're probably looking at around $150 to $200 to have enough to get through 1 month. So next, let's talk about power outages and different causes of them. A power outage can be caused by everything from someone hitting a power pole with their car to trees falling on power lines, storm damage, an overloaded transformer, grid failure, and probably the worst imaginable scenario, an EMP attack. An EMP is an electromagnetic pulse that can be caused by natural, like lightning, or in this case, in cases we preppers prepare for most, the detonation of a nuclear weapon high up in the Earth's atmosphere. This is one of the ultimate worst case scenarios for a prepper, and something you will read and hear about a lot. That's because a single EMP could potentially knock out the entire power grid from coast to coast and bring about utter chaos in our country. Without getting into all the P's and Q's of an EMP attack, let's just know it's always a possibility and something we need to prepare for. So, how do we prepare for power outages and EMP attacks? Well, first, let's start with the basics of a power outage. In my home, every room has an emergency power failure nightlight in every outlet. You can get simple night lights that have a sensor and illuminate automatically when it gets dark. Or you could go one step further and get emergency flashlights that basically have the same function. If you haven't made an investment yet in a bunch of lanterns and flashlights like I have, then I would recommend getting the emergency flashlights that plug into your outlet. This way you aren't having to search for them in the event of a power failure like you would a traditional flashlight. You can get enough for 12 outlets for around $100 to $120. I would still also invest in some lanterns as well for much better light coverage, and so you can gather your family and help plan your next moves. You can get 4 good lanterns for around $30. Make sure you have plenty of batteries and at least 2 or 3 power banks too for recharging your devices. You can get bulk packs of batteries from your club stores like Costco and power banks off Amazon or Walmart. Be sure to have at least 12 extra batteries for every type of electronic device you have. This too can vary greatly by household, but just for reference, 24 AA, 24 AAA, 12C, 12D, and a couple power banks will probably run you around $100 to $120. Okay, now it's time to talk about generators. This can get expensive, so this is something you really need to consider before you make the investment. A good whole home generator that will turn on automatically and provide power to your entire home will run you anywhere from $3,000 to $10,000, depending on if you want one to just run your lights and basic appliances, or one powerful enough to run everything, including your washer and dryer and your HVAC system. Dryers and HVAC systems pull a tremendous amount of power, so it takes a large, robust generator to safely power them, along with your lights, microwave, refrigerator, and freezer, and regular appliances and conveniences. If you have the money, that's awesome. It will be money well spent. For all situations preppers like me, I prefer having a very large portable generator. The reason being, if I have to bug out of my home and it's badly damaged or destroyed, I can take it with me. Now, if you go that route, you will have to have a transfer switch installed in your home to transfer the power from your generator directly into your electrical panel of your home. Same as the whole home generators, you can opt for a smaller one to run small appliances and your lights, or get a big one capable of running everything. Either way, I recommend getting a dual fuel generator that can run off gasoline or propane. Propane burns cleaner and stores indefinitely, whereas gasoline, even when treated with Sta-Bil, will only keep for about 2 years at the absolute most. Old gas will clog carburetors and injectors and can ruin engines. I keep 2 100-gallon propane tanks that can power my generator. I have a 13,000-watt dual fuel unit and power my entire home. And if you're in a SHTF situation, even though it is relatively heavy, It has wheels and can be loaded up and taken with you. A dual fuel generator, a 100-gallon filled propane tank, and an installed transfer switch will probably run you about $1,500. Don't forget to still store extra fuel for your generator in your vehicles. 20 gallons and containers will run you about $125 to $175. Unfortunately, gasoline and propane will eventually run out, so anything you can get solar will help you provide you with a free, renewable power source that you don't have to replenish. If you followed me in my past episodes, then you should have your bug out bag close by with a fuel siphon in it also. In the event of an extended lockdown in your home, if you're able, you can venture out and siphon some fuel from a vehicle somewhere to help replenish your fuel tanks. Okay, now let's talk about how to protect your home from power surges and EMP attacks. Power surges from power lines can short out and permanently damage sensitive electronics in your home and become extremely costly. You can have a local electrician install a surge protector in your electrical panel that can help protect from both an EMP attack and power surges. They vary in the voltage that they're rated for. Low-end models will protect from power surges up to about 40,000 amps or so. The average lightning strike is around 30,000, just for reference. Just like generators, the more you spend, the more you get. Smaller surge protectors will only protect up to the rated voltage and will short out after that, whereas larger models will continue to protect from multiple surges until they reach the rated current. Cost is always the factor here and how much you want to spend, but a good surge protector that should help protect your home will generally run around $350 to $600 installed. Now let's talk for a minute about EMPs. This is where it gets tricky. In order to completely protect your home, you will have to shield sensitive electronics from an EMP pulse. I'm just going to be honest here, depending on the proximity of the blast, unless you have all your appliances protected with individual Faraday cages, no matter what you do, you may not be able to save them. For those that don't know what a Faraday cage is, it is a hollow enclosure that is conductive and distributes the charge of radiation around the exterior, canceling it out inside. If the blast is far enough away, then a good surge protector should help protect them. But if it is much closer, it may not be enough. No one in the real world is going to have Faraday cages built around all their appliances and electrical components of their HVAC unit. But you should absolutely store anything else you can in a Faraday cage. You can get on YouTube and learn how to build a crude but effective, larger Faraday cage that you can keep in your garage or in a closet somewhere. It won't cost you but probably around $50 to $75 to build a decent-sized homemade Faraday cage. So we just finished talking about power outages and preparing for them. If you don't have the money to get a generator to power your entire home for an extended period of time, you will need to consider the weather and the season. Is it winter and freezing cold outside? If so, you will need to make sure you have plenty of extra sleeping bags, blankets, portable heaters, and clothing to help you keep you warm. Probably going to cost you around $300 to $400 for all this. Is it summer and extremely hot? If so, you will quickly exhaust your stored water supplies. In this case, having at least one portable air conditioner unit that can keep at the minimum one room cool may be essential. These run around $300 or $400 for an 8,000 to 10,000 BTU unit. And you will have to cut a small piece of plywood to fit at the bottom of a window for the exhaust duct as well. Consider where you live and consider how the weather will affect your preps. Okay, now let's talk about natural disasters such as hurricanes, tornadoes, and floods and how to help prepare for them. Before we can effectively have this discussion, first, you will need to evaluate your home, land, and location. Is your home on the coast, near water and a floodplain? Do you live in the Midwest in Tornado Alley? Do you live in Florida where the threat of hurricanes are frequent and normal every year? Do you live in a heavily wooded area and your house is surrounded by trees? Yes, we try to prepare for any and all disasters, but you at least need to utilize the process of elimination and check the boxes of what you need to do first. If you live in an area that floods easily, consider lifting your home. If you live in Tornado Alley, you need to prioritize a storm shelter. If you live in California or an earthquake prone area, then you need to secure heavy objects near the ground or on low shelves and secure all your shelves to walls and make sure as many items in your home are secure as possible. If you live in a heavily wooded area around a bunch of trees, you need to prioritize identifying and cutting down trees that could fall and damage your home. A certified arborist can come out and evaluate this for you for a fee. If you live in a hurricane prone area, you need to prioritize getting sandbags and boarding up all your windows. Let me stop there. I wanted to end with that one because that is something that every prepper should do. If you ever watch the Weather Channel and you see Jim Cantore covering hurricanes in the Southeast, you've seen images on the TV of all the houses that have boarded up all their windows in preparation for a large hurricane. This is a good practice for every home to have ready. Go down to Lowe's, Home Depot, or your local lumber store and get enough plywood, get real thick, like 1 inch, to cut and cover every window of your home. For hurricanes, this is to protect your windows from shattering due to flying objects because of high winds. I'll discuss this more later. Also, you always want to have lots of tarps, straps, nails, and a heavy-duty staple gun around to provide temporary cover, if need be, from rain and additional water damage until repairs can be made. Another essential item is a large bulk pack of heavy-duty 40-plus gallon black trash bags. These can be used to replace tarps in small areas in a pinch and can also be used to clean up debris and help you throw your belongings in a pile in the event you did have to leave your home in a hurry. You can pick up a bulk pack from a club retailer like Costco for around $25, $30. There are just way too many different scenarios here for me to try to price out all these items for you individually, unfortunately. Next, let's discuss fire and helping avert potential fire damage. As a former volunteer firefighter myself, I've been inside of a home that was fully involved, completely on fire for those of you that don't know, and seen how fast and dangerous a fire can be. Educate your family, especially kids, on stop, drop, and roll. You can never have too many fire extinguishers or smoke detectors. Don't forget carbon monoxide detectors too. For a 2,000 square foot home, I would like to have 4 Class ABC fire extinguishers. 4 ABC fire extinguishers will probably run you around $70. I don't think you can have too many smoke detectors and carbon monoxide detectors either. Just as an estimate, let's say 6 smoke detectors and 3 carbon monoxide detectors. Those are probably going to run you around $125. Make sure you have a fire escape plan and practice it. Have some emergency fire blankets around too. These are cheap and only cost about $25 for a 4-pack. If you have any questions, stop by your local volunteer fire department and ask them to come out and take a look and evaluate your home. Volunteer firefighters are usually very eager to show off their skills and training and will probably come by for free, although making a donation to your local VFD would be a very appreciated gesture. Now let's discuss nuclear and biological threats. One of the things conspiracy theorists such as myself are watching out for is the next COVID or other disease outbreak. Make sure to have lots of hand sanitizer, antibacterial wipes, and bleach stored. Bleach does lose its potency over time, so be sure to use your Sharpies I told you to label your food and mark the date you bought the bleach and replace it as needed. Having good quality 3M N95 masks and Tyvek suits and long latex gloves for every member of your family is a good practice as well. I have good quality full-face cartridge respirator masks I keep as well, which can be used for both nuclear and biological threats. Getting quality gas masks for your whole home are very expensive, probably will run you around $600 or $700 for 2 adults and 2 children-sized masks. but Tyvek suits, N95 masks, and cleaning and sanitation supplies will only set you back around $100. In order to provide a true good seal on them, you will need to have some duct tape and boots, although some suits can be purchased with seal tape. And be sure to wrap up between where your gloves meet the suit on your arm and legs. And men with beards, you may have to shave to ensure a good tight seal on your masks. A lot of the same principles apply to nuclear attacks as well. Survival rate from a nuclear blast varies greatly based on your proximity to ground zero, but even from great distances, people can still suffer both short and long-term effects from radiation fallout. Unless you have a full-blown fallout shelter in place and advance warning to make it to your shelter, about the only thing you can do in this situation is have your masks and suits ready, and be sure to purchase some iodine pills, which help temporarily keep radioactive iodine out of the thyroid glands where it can cause the most damage. You can pick these up on Amazon for around $20. Moving on, let's talk about storing and keeping money, important documents, and personal belongings safe. One of the most important things you can buy from this whole episode is a good quality safe. I recommend getting a large fireproof safe that you can store guns, valuables, and important documents in. Some people have separate safes for guns and valuables, but remember that smaller safes can easily be hand trucked or carried out by thieves in the event of a break-in if you're not home. A large, heavy safe will ensure that it can't be moved or accessed. Besides your generator, this will be the second most expensive thing you buy for your preps. So be prepared to spend between $750 to $3,000 for a quality safe. Speaking of documents, remember there is always a wisdom in the saying, don't keep all your eggs in one basket. So I recommend making copies of all your important documents and keeping them in a safe place, such as a safe deposit box at your local bank, along with some extra gold, silver, and cash as well. Or if you own a significant amount of land, you could even bury a small cache somewhere. Just make sure you use a plastic container and don't put anything metal in it that could be found by a metal detector. Make sure to back up any important files or documents on your computer to an external SD card, and make sure your insurance policies are up to date. And be sure to check to see if you need extra flood, earthquake, or other insurance that is very likely will not be covered under your standard homeowner's policy. Next, let's move on to defense and security. Of course, you're going to need guns and ammo, but having some non-lethal options available as well might be a good idea. Now, I know what a lot of you are thinking. If anyone tries to break into my home, they're going to get shot. While I agree with you to a point, what if you're in a situation where the world has gone completely crazy and looters and rioters and armed gangs are running amok everywhere? If you see a group of people coming toward your home, are you just going to walk out and start shooting at everyone? Number one, you'll probably be killed quickly. And number two, if you were to say kill someone immediately, the human fight or flight instinct will kick in. And instead of the attackers evaluating the situation they're in, they're just going to start shooting and killing everything. Sometimes deterrence is the preferred option. Did you know that you can get high-powered CO2 guns that launch rubberized balls, pepper balls, and mace balls? These are sometimes used by law enforcement for crowd control and can be highly effective in situations such as this. They typically run around $300 to $500, so most of us won't have the money for something like this just to keep as a prep. But I just figured I'd throw it out there. Cheaper, also effective options include buying big packs of cans of wasp spray, which work just as good as pepper spray and are much cheaper, and flare guns. Firing off a few shots with a flare gun should oftentimes be enough to scare some rapidly approaching attackers. You can get a flare gun that usually comes with 4 cartridges for around $75. It can also be used for signaling for help as well, so it's a great thing to have on hand. For your standard guns and ammo, I think a pistol that is always at your bedside when you sleep, a good 12-gauge shotgun with some buckshot, and a good rifle, either an AR or a good hunting rifle like a 308, are essential. I like to keep a pistol ready and accessible by my bedside. Otherwise, it's on me the rest of the time. And a shotgun very close by also. To me, there is no better home security weapon than your trusty old 12 gauge. Why? Because no matter how good of a shot most of us think we are, unless you're ex-military or police and have real-world combat experience, even the most poised, experienced person can panic in a dangerous situation, such as someone breaking in your home. The odds of you missing with a pistol are astronomically higher than with a shotgun loaded with buckshot, which will fire a spread and make it almost impossible to miss if you're aiming decent at relatively close range. Just keep in mind, because it will spread, if you aim it for too far away, you'll risk a lot of property damage and even worse, pellets penetrating walls and possibly hitting sleeping family members. So you have to keep that in mind. A pistol, a shotgun, a rifle, and some extra ammo will probably run you around $1,800 to $2,000. If you're new to prepping and also new to guns, and that sounds like a lot, then you better go ahead and get out of prepping now, because if you aren't willing to invest in and use your guns, you will never, ever be a successful prepper. These are, of course, for when someone has breached your property or into your home. Speaking of close range defense and deterrence, want to know one of the most easiest, effective, and underutilized ways to help deter would-be attackers and invaders? Beware of the dog signs. You don't have a dog? I don't care, especially if you have a fence around your house or obstructions, slopes, hills, foliage, trees, or anything that blocks or partially blocks your, and especially your invader's view. This could mean the difference between your house getting broken into and the would-be invaders moving off to another house. Put up lots of beware of the dog signs within each field of vision. A very easy prep that will only cost you around $30 to $40 to have all around your property. Next, let's talk about security systems. If you've listened to my previous episodes, you know I'm not a fan of ADT, Simply Safe, Brinks, and the national for-hire professionally installed security companies. Why? Because these companies can and have been subpoenaed by the federal government to give up security footage to federal agencies and law enforcement. Not only that, but they also can remotely shut down your system and lock you in your own home. Now, I am a huge supporter of our military and police and first responders. But just like every company, organization, government, there are bad people. People that, if martial law was ever declared, would willfully follow orders, immoral and possibly illegal orders. Do you really want a company having total control of you and your family's security? I sure don't. For this reason, I prefer old school security systems that are wired and even don't have Wi-Fi access. Even if you have a local, and when I say that, I mean restricted to your home only, security system that runs off of a Wi-Fi, a skilled hacker could possibly hack into and shut down your system. And of course, if the power goes out, the Wi-Fi wouldn't work anyway. No, I like a wired system that uses monitors and multiple cameras that you can control manually that has no Wi-Fi. Analog ones like the Defender Phoenix M2. And on top of that, get some extra dummy cameras with solar motion lights that can be placed in additional places around your home. These can be picked up on Amazon or lots of different retailers for around $25 for a 4-pack. A good analog security system like the Defender will probably run you around $300 to $400. If you have a larger, more spread out property, set up motion lights in low visibility areas that you might not have a good vantage point from your home to help additionally deter potential threats. Remember those pre-cut plywood panels I told you to have for all your windows for storm damage protection earlier? Well, they can also help save your life in the event of widespread lawlessness, rioting, and looting as well. Windows are the number one first access point for most burglars and home invaders. In the event of extreme civil unrest, boarding up all your windows will help protect and conceal you and your family. Here's a thought for your home defense preps. Do you know a police officer? Ask them to come to your home and evaluate your defense preps. Ask them to pretend that there was a hostage situation and that they have to successfully break in while making as little noise and drawing as little attention as possible, as if they were trying to rescue a hostage, or on the flip side, if they were a criminal and wanted to break in themselves. I bet they can find holes in your defenses or defense plan and give you some good advice and pointers. Just a suggestion. Okay, I think that hopefully about covers everything. I hope I've given you some good info here and made you stop and think about a few things you might not have considered previously, and helped at least giving you a ballpark of what some of your preps might cost. Yeah, if you start to add all this stuff up, it gets expensive quick. So for blue collar folks like me that don't have a huge budget, I think it's important to remember that you can slowly start to build up your preps and supplies over time. Sit down and talk as a family about how everyone would prioritize your needs and make up a list of literally everything you do or spend in 1 month's time. Start a list and keep track every day of what you eat, how much soap, toothpaste, medicine, and anything else you might use in a month's time, and keep track. That will help you budget and decide what and how much you need. To steal a line from our president, drill, baby, drill. Now, I don't mean going drilling for oil. I mean, run drills with your family and practice different survival scenarios, such as simulated EMP attack, where you lose power, armed attackers. I mentioned asking a police officer earlier, but you and your neighbors could actually use Nerf guns and help each other by running simulated attacks on each other. Just make sure you know about it so you don't actually potentially shoot anyone. Practice and see how fast you can place your pre-cut plywood in your windows. Of course, don't actually drill it down, and run fire escape drills. There are so many different ways you can practice and prepare. And like I mentioned earlier with both fire and invaders, reach out to your local fire, EMS, and police. They are the experts and can give you valuable insights and advice from the people that see and experience disasters every day. Well, I hope you enjoyed this episode, and I'm excited to start prepping. Thanks as always for listening. Please be sure to visit my social media accounts, X and Facebook, or email me at thepppodcast@yahoo.com. See you next week.
Thank you for listening to the Politics, Prepping, and Paranormal Podcast. Your source for real news and analysis on politics, prepping, paranormal, conspiracy theories, and the volatile state of the world we live in. Tune in next week and every week for a new episode, and stay safe, stay healthy, and stay vigilant.